Hey, hey! Here we are again. The title screen looks a lot better on this Arches build, because this is the one that, I believe concludes the story, and then, I think there'll be like one final polish build, and then, that'll be it, the 1.0 build. Let's see what is coming up next on this build of Arches. The terrible change comes almost exactly 3 weeks later. Cameron had been feeling strange ever since they got back home, like he wasn't quite himself. After a flurry of hospital visits, police interviews, and even harassment from the media, things had become strangely quiet. He's a broken road. Brian Dubois was a serial killer with a victim count in the double digits. His last name is Dubois? Interesting. Huh. With all the murders taking place over the course of nearly 4 decades. Oh yes, happy Pride Month! That would get national attention, of course, especially since Brian appeared to be involved in the high-profile disappearance of a college freshman last year. Ooh. The body cam footage of the domestic rescue from the mines even made the rounds on social media. For about 2 days. Well, that's the nature of social media, you know. At the same time, a pandemic was picking up steam, and media attention focused there instead. Cameron didn't mind. The lack of attention made his recovery much easier. His burst liver and severely damaged kidney had left him needing surgery. The hospital did what they could for his elbow, and his doctors were hopeful that with a lot of physical therapy, he could at least use it for basic necessities. While it did suck to maybe never be able to bend his elbow correctly or without pain, what really devastated Cameron was the weakness and near maddening tingling in his pinky and ring finger. So for now, despite him being eager to get back to it, guitar was an absolute no. For now. But what about forever? On top of that, Cameron had been trying to banish that damn voice from his head. No, the negative thoughts from his head, right? Just a flashback, one of the shitty leftovers from his shroom trip. Either way, all he could do was try to ignore it, despite it making itself known at least once a day. Cameron, something's wrong. But things continued to feel strange. It didn't seem to be related to his ESP, because he could easily tell when that was happening. Ever since the shroom trip, a haze of psychic ability lingered around him, allowing him to capture thoughts and feelings seemingly at random. Downloading is what some people like him like to call it. He didn't have much control, though. Sometimes, he wasn't even able to tell if he downloaded, Sometimes he wasn't even able to tell if the download he was receiving was from the living or the dead. Cameron even began to try and hone his abilities, and experiment with just how much he could do. What he quickly figured out was that without some sort of illicit substance, his clairvoyance lacked a great deal of fuel that had powered his abilities in Echo. That would make it easier, and so would being in an active location like Echo, of course. Echo is one of those locations, though, obviously, but there are so many others. Ooh. Expanded Echoverse. He's a desert lake. Every now and then, Cameron would find himself pausing, like at the back door of Devon's house as a chill would run down his spine. That feeling always meant an echo was attached to something, somewhere nearby. That's what Cameron called the beings, not exactly intelligent or even living, but entities that interacted with and usually threatened the living. In that particular case, it emanated from under the back porch. When he told Devin about it, the bear knew immediately what Cameron was talking about. "Oh yeah, I hear something moving under there all the time. Like a person crawling around. Even Dad says he saw red eyes under there once." Being more sensitive doesn't exactly answer questions, though. Like, why is it there? Where did it come from? The hell is it? All he knows is it's not a person, and it never was a person. Because they're all demons. While Cameron had seen that old spark of interest in Devin's eyes, he had told Cameron to just ignore it, and focus on their visit for now. Devin just wanted everything to go away, quietly, like it never happened. That included Cameron's abilities. That was at the end of the second week, and over the course of his life, Cameron would look back on that visit as one of the last times he was truly himself. He's a trailer home in the Southwest. By the third week, Cameron was recovering at a remarkable rate, and so Devin began to pay Artie more visits and phone calls. Arturo's improvement was also rapid, but Cameron was left feeling a little sad that Artie never asked to talk to him, would only ask Devin how the coyote was holding up. It made sense, he'd tell himself. Devin and Artie go back further than even Devin and himself did. Sure, something had felt off, but considering the circumstances, nothing was normal nothing was normal at the time. As the third week progressed, what had been bubbling below the surface made itself fully known. The only thing that seemed to be getting back to normal were his dreams. Sometimes he'd still wake up whimpering or crying, thinking he was back in Echo. Devin had it far worse, waking up in a howling panic, yelling about guns, chains, and death. Those were the times when Cameron did his best to give comfort and support, at least as best as his patched up and sore body could manage. But now, with some time between him and what happened, Cameron feels like a part of him is missing, like he's not fully present. It's like pieces of him litter the town of his trauma. It felt like he was still there in a way. And when that feeling really started to set in, that's when it happened. A small pressure in his right ear started to develop. It was something that he was sure had to do with the hearing loss he'd experienced from that shotgun blast. It was irritating, and it felt bizarre. They had set up another appointment with Cameron's audiologist a few weeks from then. The hearing loss was likely permanent, but then something began to replace it. The hum, oh man, right in the middle of the afternoon. Ooh, new picture. April 2020. Cameron starts working again that week. He wants to feel useful again. And because they're both working from home now, it seems like a reasonable idea. Devin didn't want him starting yet, of course, but Cameron wants that sense of normalcy to come back faster, and his shitty job had seemed like the perfect solution. Trying to work with mostly one paw does come as a bigger challenge than Cameron had expected, not realizing how much he used his non-dominant one. Typing is particularly slow, and he was getting better at managing it. Still, it makes him sluggish. And even though his boss is understanding, even telling him to just forward any rude customers her way, it still leaves him occasionally flustered in ways he isn't used to. After a rather harsh call that begins with, "Thank God, someone I can finally fucking understand," then ends with, "You know what would have been faster?" Cameron waits for the answer. Anything. This is the last time I buy some wow. You know, alright, I'm just gonna move on from that. Cameron rubs his eyes, wondering how different interactions would be if they did face-to-face video calls. Yeah, that is very true. When there's anonymity, people tend to feel like they have some sort of security that they don't actually have. This phone was actually assembled in the States after Julian pledged, and it's not the answer the man wants to hear. Cameron can tell before he even gets cut off. Transfer me to your superior, please. Of course, one moment. As Cameron reaches for the button to his phone's line, he hears the man muttering under his breath, "For God's sake." Oh, the clock's getting hazy. Click. No big deal. He would get. This is why this isn't the final build. You get one of those every week. And according to his coworkers, it's gotten worse since the pandemic started. Very true. Customer service got hammered with shit people. Why did that one hurt his feelings so badly, to the point that his eyes are welling up with tears? Maybe it's because he went through hell and back, and that man has no idea. No idea. Oh! Whoa! And his computer His computer screen seemed to stretch far away, and Cameron finds himself grabbing the edge of his desk like he's about to fall over. Pressure grows in his right ear, and he realizes that maybe that's what's causing the strange feeling of being off balance as the world tilts. No, he's tripping again. It's a flashback, just a flashback. No, it's brain damage, and you'll probably feel like this forever. Brian poisoned you. Reynolds very still, positive he didn't think those thoughts just now. And I'm not saying that. A little customer stereotype. Just smash the keyboard in a mid you can't work anymore. Wow. Cameron brings a paw up to his right ear where the voice came from. Is this headset still on? No, and you can tell it's coming from inside your head, you idiot. Wow. Damn. After that, Cameron remembers very little except panic, followed by confusion, a ton of confusion. His thoughts make no sense. That voice is definitely not his thoughts. It doesn't make sense, and now he doesn't understand where he is. The voice continues to encourage him to smash the keyboard, so he does, just to see if maybe it will break this bizarre half-dream. Devin, in his own study, hears this. After finding Cameron sobbing on the ground, surrounded by black plastic keycaps and bleeding from his reopened stitches, a frantic Devin drives him to the hospital. Maybe I'll stop if you grab the wheel and turn into the median. Oh my god. For old time's sake. And he doesn't even need a fucking fan. Look, Mom, no fans. The voice snickers. Continues to laugh at him all the way into the psychiatric ward. October 2020. Last time it was in April, now we're in October. That's 7 months after Echo and 6 months after his episode. Fuck, that was only a month God damn! Cameron feels worse than he did right after Echo. The voice that had wormed its way into his damaged ear had disappeared after just a few days of antipsychotic treatment. It returned again and again every few days. Whenever something upset him, whenever he gets into arguments with Devin, and really, whenever it pleases, it makes itself known. It comes in a deep, masculine voice, although sometimes it's Brian-like, and how it taunts and laughs at him. Ooh. The way we kind of have heard of this thing, it's kind of an amalgamation of all the people that it's inhabited. So it would make sense that it's taken traits of everyone. Interesting. Short asides that were sometimes mean, sometimes meaningless, and sometimes boring. All about the things Cameron would do and the people he would see. Feels like it's trying to remind Cameron things aren't okay, as weeks continued to come and go with manageable but clearly present psychotic symptoms. He worried his broken arm would stop him from being able to play music as well as he used to. Turns out he didn't have to worry about that at all, because he doesn't give a fuck anymore. Like a switch, his interests, his motivations, his want to do anything productive or useful seemed to just turn off. That's what happened to Chase. His thought process had been wrecked, and the disorganized thought during his episodes became present, even when he wasn't having one. His mother said she needed meth because it fought the feelings that her psychosis brought on, which was brought on by the meth. A vicious cycle. And speaking of which, he finally got his diagnosis. Schizophrenia, likely induced by the trauma and drug use in Echo. Not that it really matters what induced it, because the problem is that he has it. There's no taking it back, after all. Hey, there he is. Propranolol. That pill for restlessness from akathisia, escitalopram for depression, trazodone, I know that one, for sleep and depression, topiramate for weight control. Hey! I take topiramate for weight control. I don't take it for that, though. I take it for pressure in my head. But it has helped with the weight. And guanfacine for tics, and PTSD, and clonazepam as needed for anxiety and panic attacks. His head tilts to the right before coming back up in a sort of twitching movement twice. Tick, tick. The symptoms of schizophrenia are devastating enough, but so are the side effects and the antipsychotics to treat it. Side effects that are covered up by the medications that cause even more side effects, which in turn are maybe more tolerable. The first antipsychotic he tried made him too tired, and he was finally switched after 4 months. I have been through this process before. This switch aggravated the dopamine in his brain, according to his last psychiatrist, which for some reason, this meant that his childhood motor and vocal tics got to come back. Not just come back, but they came back with a vengeance, to the point that when he got especially emotional, his neck and sometimes his body would go into an uncontrollable twitching fit. At least he could hide it, or at the very least control it, when he was younger. Made him feel like some kind of freak show in public. His vocal tics would come up at the worst moments, and talking to anyone other than Devin would result in awful humiliations that sometimes triggered psychosis again. When a vocal tic involving his diaphragm appeared, one that he'd never had before, Cameron really began to despair. It would force him to exhale for 10 to 15 seconds before holding it until he nearly blacked out. Then it would release, and he would gasp in air again, vision coming back through blurry tears, only for it to happen half a dozen more times in agonizing waves. It was so distressing that each time it happened, it triggered an episode, and he'd be left with so many tics happening at once that even Devin couldn't communicate with him. The familiar tightening in his abdomen signaling the approach of another episode was enough to make him whine and cry in dread. All this because that damn pill that's supposed to help him. 3 or 4 of those vocal episodes every day for a week, and Devin had finally had enough and found a different psychiatrist. This helped a great deal, and Cameron found himself trusting her far more than he ever did his first psychiatrist. She immediately switched into another antipsychotic, one that she said would help his tics too. Still, when Cameron had been readying himself to take his first dose, he broke down, and he cried like a child. He even begged Devin to not make him take it, which just made the whole situation so much worse. What if it caused him more problems to show up? What if it made him worse? Cameron read all about the horrible lifelong side effects that antipsychotics can cause. Those... I'm not even going to attempt to try to pronounce all that. And his old childhood bane that he'd almost forgotten about, Tourette's syndrome. The word that can be placed in front of any of those symptoms, which means that even if you stop taking the drug, and even if years go by, the symptom lingers. And then there's always the worry that tolerance might build, supersensitivity might set in, and the dosage might need to be increased, and then he might develop a treatment-resistant form of schizophrenia. All from these little pills wreaking havoc on the synapses of his brain. More poison, more brain damage. Cameron rubs his right ear vigorously. You're the brain damage, asshole! Whoa! 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 The Echo Monster did not like that. Remembering the management techniques his therapist taught him, Cameron takes a deep breath. Okay, time to take my medication. It's been a few weeks now, and my tics have decreased by over half. I haven't had a breathing tic in 4 days. I feel like this is good progress. What think is positive symptoms have decreased by maybe 40% over the last week. Good progress. Just hope my negative symptoms improve as well. That's my next goal once I reach stability. His thoughts are his own again. That makes Cameron feel at least a little better, knowing that some things are coming easier. He begins opening his pill organizer and pulls out the most important one. The psychiatrist had been right, and for once, Cameron feels like they might have at least found the right road to the new him. Despite tolerating paliperidone much better than the last antipsychotic, it still causes the same side effects that make him need to take all the other meds. At least it's making his tics better. 3 tics. Though he doubts they will ever truly go away like they did in his childhood. Tardive Tourette's syndrome. Devastating on its own, but still controllable, manageable with time. He has to believe that. As the sound of pills rattling against plastic seemed to echo through the kitchen, Cameron hears Devin in his study. Oh, you're taking them now? Just a sec. That was fast. Cameron mutters under his breath, feeling just a little resentful, knowing that Devin had been listening in on his thinking out loud technique. Cameron sighs and picks up the pill again, staring at it closely, as if able to see its molecular structure, engineered to block the dopamine receptors in his brain. The root cause of psychosis, at least at the molecular level. More complicated than that, it always is. Devin comes in, and with just his underwear on. A year ago, it would have been a sight that Cameron would have appreciated. Probably would have put his arms around him and rubbed his face into his chest like he used to. But his sex drive was killed months ago, either from meds or one of the many symptoms of schizophrenia, and it's just another reminder that he's not who he used to be. While sex is the last thing on his mind, Cameron knows it's important in their relationship. He occasionally would force himself to do it and pretend to enjoy it, but everything aches now. And in the end, he'd find himself staring at the ceiling. Devin noticed and eventually suggested that they wait until Cameron feels better, until he actually wants it himself, which only made Cameron feel worse. Devin's libido was stronger than Cameron's ever was, so he knows it must be sexually frustrating for the bear. Right now, Devin is just standing there, smiling pleasantly as he watches Cameron. Making sure you take your poison. You want your brain damaged more than it already is. Jolt of fear, a dip into unreality. Cameron feels angry at how easily the voice slipped into his thoughts again. Useful poison. And winces at the crazy coming out of his mouth. Sorry, I'm just thinking out loud, if that's what you're wondering. Okay, that's good. Remember, it does seem to act up right before you take your medication, so don't worry about it too much. It's a really good, shot. They just feel very real in this moment, you know? And also very true from Mike. Don't ever force yourself to do anything to appease your partner if you don't want to do it. Very, very true. They're doing a really good job of making the aftermath of everything that happened in Echo, the town, feel very realistic. Yeah, I don't need you to watch me anymore. It's quiet as Cameron swallows the pill, angling himself so that Devin can see, and follows it with the rest of the 5 or so pills he holds in his paw. Cameron finishes swallowing those, knowing that in an hour he won't be able to keep his eyes open. Ooh, a little bit of resentment on Cameron's face. Right? Or do you still not trust me? No, I agree with you, but we also agreed I'd do it for at least a year, just in case. Even if you said you were fine. Remember? Cameron hates the fact that he's right. Yeah, because you don't trust me. Spitefully, Cameron turns to show Devin the underside of his tongue, as if the bear might be suspicious he's hiding it. Cameron... You want to do a cavity search too? Hey, maybe that can be our solution. I take my meds, then you can get to play with my ass. Cameron feels the burst of anger in Devin, and for some reason it feels good. That's kind of a fucked up thing to say, don't you think? Is that what you think I even care about right now? Oh, jeez. Devin's already sounding angry, quicker than he usually does, and suddenly they're in a fight. Ones they never had before Echo. Things must be getting extra stressful for Devin if it's this easy to provoke him. And Cameron should do something to help him, to soothe him, but instead he wants this fight. For a moment, he even wants Devin to hit him. Kill him. Grab one of the knives. To punch him right in the face to end everything as they know it. Not much for them to lose anyway. Why are you all of a sudden intent on me taking my meds? Pretty different from college, right? This is so different, Cameron. I know I talked shit on psychology before. I acted like I knew what it was about, but like you say, everyone changes. It's because I'm a problem for you now. And you just want me to take what'll make me not crazy, even if it makes me feel like shit. I want you to get better. I'm not gonna get better, Devin. This is permanent. It doesn't mean you can't get better. That's the point. And then I'll relapse. If you relapse, we'll help you get better again. I don't even care about the stupid voice anymore, or even the tics. Oh, there. Fucking... I like how it's the voice is almost petty. Like, fuck you, I'll make you care, you piece of shit. It's like, Jesus Christ. Tick, tick, tick. Feels like my soul has been sucked out, and I don't care if it's the meds or the crazy or just me, but I hate it. I hate it too. I hate it so much. I hate that you feel this way. That's why I'm doing this. But you don't even have a fucking clue what this is like. Everyone just talks about the voices and hallucinations and delusions, but what about the cognizant shit? I can't think. Nothing feels real and I feel dead. You're right, I don't. But you're all I think about almost every minute of the day because I see you suffer and I want to stop it. Wow. Wow, the voice really just, the voice is just being rude at this point. I'm probably suffering because of the meds. It's like back in college, but 10 times worse. I can't write or even listen to music anymore. I don't want to do anything. On Cameron, this is the main reason people relapse. Their positive symptoms go away, they think they're better, and then they stop their meds so that the negative symptoms aren't so bad, and then they relapse. You need time, a year at least. And maybe then we can start tapering off, but not now. And what if I do relapse? It's like only half of schizophrenics that even achieve a full 10-year remission. Medical literature he obsessed over pours out of his mouth. Shitty quality of life, up to 30 years off the average life expectancy, incurable. Then we'll try again, right? Burst of anxiety from Devon. While Cameron never thought hard on what he might do, he does suppose he'd consider ending it. If this is how the rest of his life will play out, he's sure he will eventually. But only when Devon isn't here to take that blow. Hate you. Want you to die. Voice continues to talk and Cameron rubs his ear trying to ground himself. Right. The obvious signs of Cameron having an episode seem to bring Devon back down as well. The bear quickly hugs Cameron. I'm sorry. Aw, there they are. Despite his sore and sensitive skin, it feels good after the burst of anger and sadness. I'm just sad. I'm sad because I had such a good life with you, and it feels like it was just yesterday, but it's just gone now. It's strange that he can remember his past life so vividly, the feeling of being mostly normal in his brain. And squeezes him tighter. You always talk about the new you, and how we just have to wait for him to get here, and we'll have a new life. It'll just be a rough couple of months, maybe a bit longer. Cameron sniffles. What day is it anyway? Like the 15th? The 24th, I think. I forgot that your birthday was last week. I just remembered now. Devon laughs. Honestly, me too. They have a nice kitchen. I mean, look at this kitchen. It's nice. I'd enjoy this kitchen. The hardest thing about that particular argument for Devon was that he completely empathized with Cameron. Can't imagine being in that situation, made to take medication that changes him so fundamentally that he's not in full control of his movements or even his breathing. The coyote is justified in being angry, sad, childish, and even sometimes outright spiteful. That doesn't mean that it isn't unsettling to see Cameron lash out and cry in ways Devon had never seen him come close to before. At points, it feels like he's watching the deconstruction of a life in real time. Leaves his stomach feeling hollow and sick, like it did days after Brian had a go at it. The thought of the old bear makes Devon so angry that now wishes the man was still alive. At least then there'd be a chance for him to try and knock out a few more of his teeth in court during the victim impact statement or something. And the stress continues to build as Cameron's condition remains unstable. The transfer was scheduled for November. Devin is trying to type up an extremely apologetic and professional email to explain the situation and also request a possible video meeting to delay the transfer. It's a reasonable request, especially considering the state of the world at the moment. Transfer of what? But then, seemingly out of nowhere, his breathing picks up speed. Confused, Devin watches as the edges of his vision begin to darken. He can't figure out why he suddenly feels as if he's going to pass out. The first thing that comes to Devin's mind is Arturo's older brother who died of a pulmonary embolism after surgery. The one that already talked about casually while high, even though Devin knows he's still devastated by it. Devin stands up from his desk, walking, then sinking to the ground as the room spins. Cam, I need help, please, I can't. Before he can stop himself, he blurts out Cameron's name, simultaneously questioning whether that's a good idea or not. Cameron seeing his boyfriend die in front of him won't exactly help his mental state, so it's better that he's probably sleeping like a rock right now. Pulls out his phone as he's on his knees, having pressed the 9 and 1, before a very groggy, sedated Cameron comes in, his expression of bleary confusion turning to fear. Don't worry, I just can't catch my fucking breath. A look of recognition comes over the coyote's face, and kneeling in front of Devin, he presses the bear's head against his chest. Devin, it's okay. We're okay. Breathe with me. Devin's not sure if that's what the problem is, but after just a few seconds, it stops. Are you okay? I've never seen you like that before. Devin sees Cameron's neck twitch multiple times. He immediately feels like an idiot. Here he is having a stupid, breathless panic attack while Cameron is having vocal tics that force him to almost pass out from not being able to breathe. Devin tries to get him to go back to bed, but Cameron sleeps on the sofa in the study, determined to be there if Devin needs him again. Devin feels like he should be the one doing the comforting right now. He is glad to have Cameron there. So, that's what the coyote feels like when he's panicking. A scary moment, but Devin doubts he'll let that feeling sneak up on him again now that he's familiar with it. Oh, really? Yeah. I won't let that panic thing come up. Yeah. No. He'd considered therapy and medication like he's constantly trying to find for Cameron, but part of him has to admit that he's scared too. Besides, he's not bad enough. He's not bad enough that he needs help. He'll settle on what always helped him to deal with stress in the past, which is being active. Oh yeah, you just go through the echo trauma chamber and come out of it totally neurotypical. That's sure. Pshaw. I mean, yes, I'll definitely be able to tell when I'm having a panic attack again, Devin 2023. Fucking hell. Exercise will be good for both of them, actually. Exercise and staying active. Way to go, guy. Once he sends this email, he'll figure out how to renew both of their gym memberships, assuming the place is still even open. Oh boy. Oh boy.